After all these years where I have been writing one real book and then a number of smaller ebooks, I've been blogging, I've been writing poetry, and I have been writing emails to my email list of clients and people who are interested in what I share. And there's still this fear in me that nobody cares what I have to say. And it's such a deep, deep ingrained feeling, sensation in my body. And not only what I have to say, but also who I am, basically. And I have been aware of it for a long time, and I have worked on it, with it, and it has definitely softened a lot over the years, to the point where I just did it anyway. I just put it out anyway, as you know, here on my YouTube channel and in my e-letters. And it feels really good just to do it anyway and not let that belief stop me. But there's more to the story I've realized over the last several months, where this whole new thing about longing has been emerging. Because I still would love to reach more people with what I share. Because, honestly, I think what comes through is really, really valuable. When these downloads come through and the clarity and the insights, it feels really beautiful and rich and something that I simply want to share with everyone so they also can benefit from it. And I'm very grateful for that. So there is this longing that just kind of that wants to share this this that I am, because I feel I am living that and I'm following that longing. And you may be able to relate to that as following your longing, but nothing really happens. Certain things happen for sure, but not in a way you would expect it would, when you really feel that you are in the flow, which I have talked about so much. Now, I do feel I'm very much in the flow when I'm doing these videos. It's just like boom, boom, and it just comes out. And I get lovely feedback, and it is wonderful. And yet, sometimes I wonder, why am I not reaching more people? And I think I have really found the answer to that in the last few months. And it is because there is still a contraction in my energy field, whatever we want to call it. So that when I share my downloads, my message, my insights, my own experience, it kind of has to go through this filter where I'm expecting that nobody cares what I'm sharing. I'm not wanted. That was the other flavor. I'm not wanted, and nobody cares what I have to say. And it feels really liberating to just really share it here, because I was aware, I was doing some work with my coach, my business coach, and we were talking about this, and I just became aware that, I have never really shared this. And then I got really excited about sharing it, because my whole thing is about being as authentic and transparent as feels right, as feels good. And it came with an energy. It was like, yeah, that would be actually lovely to share that, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. So here I am, just realizing how I have this flow coming through me that inspires me like nobody's business. And then there is still me kind of contracting. So I'm not allowing it to come through in the way that I actually long for. So here we are with this subject of longing that I've talked so much about. And it has helped me to become aware what stops me. And then I can go back to our old friend Rumi, where he says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the places within yourself that you have built against it. And that's an ongoing process for me. That's the process I do with my clients. That's probably the process we're all going through. And we all have to do it because we are all under that same veil of illusion that keeps holding us back, that keeps convincing us. In my case, nobody cares what you have to say, Pernilla. And even though I don't consciously believe it, unconsciously, there is that flavor where it just kind of impacts me. And in that, I go like, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. You're not going to stop me. But I don't feel fully free in it yet. And I think by sharing this and hopefully having you maybe relate to that and allowing you to see that might be happening in you too, because I really want this all to be open and transparent so that we can be free from this veil of illusion or this overlay. I love to call it an overlay because it just feels like there's this thing in front of us and around us and inside of us that convinces us of a lie, often hypnotic suggestion, right? It's a suggestion. It's not true, but it's suggesting, like Pernilla, nobody cares what you have to say, honey. So why even bother? Or, Pernilla, you're not wanted. Nobody wants you or what you have to offer. You better stop it. It's very palpable, isn't it? And what I really see is the more I just have been removing myself from that veil of illusion, from that, the matrix or the false light. It's like a false light that we see. It looks like light here, but it's a false light. It's not what is actually true. It's covered with something. And the more I have been kind of removing myself from that, or maybe I could say that it has been losing its grip on me, I have so much more access to this sweet feeling of longing that I have been talking about. It's really, really tangible for me and has been for a little while. And my God, it's so liberating. It's so liberating to just finally feel that this grip of, this limitation, darkness, not good enough, unwanted. It was almost like I couldn't do anything about it. I could see it. I could choose differently. I cannot touch it. But somehow in the background, it was always touching me, even though I didn't touch it, which I think is a very important step. And maybe that is why it little by little is losing its grip on me. And as I'm saying that right now, I had not thought about that before. And that always tells me when it just comes like that with a clarity, that's spot on. So I think what I have been sharing, I hope it's really working. And I'm feeling that there is a subtle and maybe not so subtle liberation happening from the veil. And I just feel there's more access to this sweet longing of what I really want. Because I don't want to live a life where I feel I have to hold back and stay invisible because I'm not wanted or because nobody wants to hear what I have to say or read what I have to say. I don't want that. And I never did. But now I'm beginning to get a sense of what it is like to live without that. It's still there, but it feels it's more like in the background, more like a flavor or yeah, a flavor. But it's not really touching me anymore the way it used to. And now I can just, it's so much easier to stay with what I want, what I long for. And that still is what I've been talking about all along. For me, it is just really to be deeply at peace and deeply at rest in the flow, the effortlessness, the ease of the divine, of the grace. That's kind of like, oh, I want that. And it's more accessible, is what I want to say. So we are all under the same veil. And I feel that the more I have been removing myself from it, or the grip has been loosened, the more obvious it is that it is a totally impersonal suggestion. That is what Joe Goldsmith, who has been my, the ground of my spirituality. I've talked a lot about Joe Goldsmith. He totally changed my life, even though I never met him. But he talks about that it is impersonal. It is an impersonal suggestion. And I've heard that, my God, since the early 90s, the late 80s. So it's many years. And now it's finally becoming real for me because I have more distance from it. When I'm totally immersed in it, or just like a tiny little gap once in a while, it still feels very personal, right? Nobody cares what I have to say. I am not wanted. Can you feel how personal that is? And now seeing it more at a distance, it's like the suggestion is like, oh, nobody cares what you have to say. But I don't feel it as personal anymore. I can still sense it. It's not gone, but it does not have that same impact as it probably had my whole life. And as I am guessing, since we have all lived under that same veil of limitation and my goodness, unkindness and putting ourselves down, putting us down, it's actually possible to live without it or to get out of it. And that's why this subject of the deepest longing, that is the way out of it. But I can see that we need enough distance from being, from the grip, so that we have access to turning around and focusing on this longing that we may not even have been aware of because we were so involved in surviving and, trying to be good enough and hiding and whatever we did. And we didn't even know that there was something here. It was kind of a, far-fetched fantasy. But it's not. It's not. It just seems like that when you're totally in the grip of the veil, of the matrix, of this false light. And that's why the more I'm just receiving the information and the downloads about it, and the more I practice that, the more I share it, it just feels like I'm in this portal where I kind of get out of the veil and into the truth, what is here, and then allow that to guide me, to speak through me, to write through me. I feel so liberated in that process. And it's just delicious. It's just delicious. So we do need to start removing ourselves from the veil. And that means not touching it when we can. And it is something we have to learn. I don't think most people can do it on their own. Maybe you can now, because I think the veil is thinning and is losing its grip. So it is probably easier now for most people than it was for me when I started out. and many, many others. And I do also believe that the fact that we have let go of it, learned to not touch it, is also part of what is thinning the veil or loosening the grip on us. And if you have been doing this work for a long, long time, then I say thank you both to you and to me that we have done the groundwork for the next flow of energy to come through, which is coming through what is real, right? The longing, the heaven is spread all over the earth, and we can feel that it's here. We can really begin to sense it because we can get still enough because we're not so busy out here. So we have more presence and more stillness to go here, to go here and feel, what is it that I want? What is it that this energy wants? I long for something. I want something else than this. I don't know what it is, but I can feel there's something there. And then let yourself go there and allow it to come forth. Allow it to announce itself to you. And if this old paradigm comes in and wants to take over, that's where the choice point comes. That's where we start changing our neural pathways. Instead of going to what's been fired and wired for so long that we're so identified with, we take a pause and we wait and say, no, no, no more. Now I want this. And I may not even know what it is yet, but there is something. And I want to be still enough to feel it, to listen to it. And it's, even if it's just a very vague sensation of like, oh, I want something else, like, oh, there must be something else. I can feel here. There's something that feels good that I want. That's what we need to stay with. And that's what we really need to befriend it. I think I talked about that yesterday. We need to befriend this because in the past, I think it felt like it was our enemy. And that's why we turned away from it. And there's many good reasons why we did. I shared with you also that I certainly did that myself, and it was very painful. And I think that turning away from that, right, that is building the wall, the barriers around us that Rumi talks about. So it's this kind of movement away from this, and the things that I know have blocked me from fully embracing it. It is still this underlying feeling that I just shared with you. It's like, well, yeah, well, I want to share this. I really want everybody to know about this. But then it would come like, nobody cares what you have to say. You're not wanted, right? That's the layers that I still moved through, but I think they were coloring the expression to come forward in its purity without my interpretation or my expectation of it. That's the word. There was a part of me that was expecting to not be wanted, to not have anybody listen to my YouTube channel, to not have people open my emails. And that expectation was actually stronger than allowing the energy to come through. And that is, of course, something we all work with, right? In the deeper work that we do, is to find these layers. And some of them are so old and familiar. And I'm also aware, as I've been moving through this, that there was a part that I wasn't even sure if that could ever change. It just was so familiar, so darn familiar. But I feel it's changing. I just feel I can go here much easier, and I feel so grateful and I feel so happy. It's like, yeah, this is what I want. So this like, oh, you can't have that or nobody wants that. It's definitely lessening. And this is definitely growing. So my friends, if I may leave that with you today, to just consider, how is your longing being held back? Is your longing your friend or your foe? And just be curious about it today. Just have that question in your mind when you go and say, I want this. I want to feel peace. You can never have peace, right? It's going to be there right away in whatever flavor your veil has been showing up and holding you back. So we can change that. It's a step by step, honoring this and seeing through that. And that is where the hardest work is, to see through it, to not touch it, and to choose. There's a lot more to it. It's learning how to be with it without touching it. So it doesn't become a mind thing or a spiritual bypass. So there's a lot of little tricks there, that we need to find out how to dance through those obstacles or those barriers. If you need support with that, please reach out, because that is what I am doing. That's what has been fueling me in my own process with myself and with my clients, to really help people to be present with it without getting lost in it. It's not avoiding it. It's like allowing, it's like leaning into it, allowing it to be experienced in here, not up here. It's like, oh, I know that. No, it's like, ooh, and it can be very uncomfortable for a little while. But then things change, and the energy inside of us changes, and it gives us more space to choose this.